Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soulprism podcast, where we share bite sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I'm really excited to be talking to Christian Kronberg today. Christian Kronberg is a human design alignment coach. He's a 3-5 splenic projector, the right angle cross of explanation. He loves helping people live lives and run businesses in alignment with their unique human design, avoiding burnout. Welcome, Christian. I'm really excited to be talking about this today.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Thanks for having me on here. And I'm really excited to talk to you again. Yeah, let's go forward. Let's see where this leads.
So I'm so curious, why burnout? What is your relationship to burnout as a projector and a business owner?
Yeah, well, basically, my journey with human design and understanding my own energetic design came from pain in burnout, like stress, anxiety that later on led to burnout. And quite a few times I've had four different companies since 2016 when I started up a cafe in Copenhagen. I had a startup there. And within a few months, me and my ex-partner were working like way too many hours. I'm a projector in human design, and so I don't have a sacral center defined, and that sort of leaves me out of that work and life force energy, ongoing energy, and um, I burned out like completely back then. And after that, I took a mental trainer education. I focused on doing stuff online, less like physical work and more, maybe not more intellectual work, but work in a different way. And could see that I just kept going back to the same habit as I'd had before. I still like overworked myself, even though I had a mental trainer education and tried to do things like slightly different, but it felt like I couldn't keep up like in the first company that I created. And so I experienced like repetitive cycles of burnout and went on this deep search like after the mental training education because it sort of led into spirituality and opened up for that if there's something more to the universe. And I've always had that feeling, but never really dug too much into it. And then I realized at some point that human design showed up for me and sort of gave me a little bit of a hint and a clue of why I kept running into these repetitive cycles of burnout. And I sort of, human design is quite a big system, so I sort of, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to study that big something. It's like studying a whole bachelor if you start the subject. But after a while, and after my third burnout, ending up in the hospital in Stockholm when I lived there, I'm like, okay, I surrender. I give up. Like universe, God, source, whatever, give me something that stops this, that makes me feel good in my body. Let me go on, let's call it the right path. And then human design sort of came back to me. And that sort of became my savior because I tested more than 40, 50 different healing modalities in the period between my mental training education and being presented with human design. And after having sort of the blueprint for how you're operating as a person in this lifetime, it became very clear why I burned out the way that I did and why I was operating in a complete different way than I'm supposed to if I'm supposed to feel good in my body. So that was my way into human design and for teaching other people about this.
I love that. I love that you shared that even though as a projector, you switched from a very physical business, running a coffee shop or a cafe, into
Yeah.
more of a mental aspect in your second business or future businesses. And yet there was still that cycle of burnout, whether it was physical burnout or mental burnout or emotional burnout, and how
Yeah.
burnout isn't just one thing, but it really is a holistic way that we use our energy in the less efficient ways. And I'm curious how these healing modalities, because as you said, you've taken so many healing modalities, did they act more as a band-aid to your burnout? How did or did they help out at all? Or was it when you finally like completely surrendered and stopped and actually listened?
So I created at some point a workshop that's called How to Manifest by Design, because as you probably know, we attract into our lives um, based on our design, as well as how conditioned we are, and what we put our focus on, and similar. But I actually brought this up, and I showed a lot of these different modalities, and explained to people that it's a little bit like, I wouldn't call it put a band-aid on, but it's like you get momentarily relief. And then if you go back to the same habits you had before, then the pain comes back. So let's say you do some Reiki healing, or you get a massage, or like whatever it is that you do, kinesiology, some of these things, but you go back to the same thing one more time, then you haven't healed anything really. You haven't aligned anything. You have just momentarily, maybe for a few weeks, reduced the amount of pain, stress, anxiety. Sorry. And then you come back to the same habits because no real change has actually taken place, if you understand what I mean.
No, I absolutely understand what you mean. And I find that, I did that myself. I am a recovering certification junkie, although I actually still take a lot of certifications, but more for my joy than it is to prove myself or to heal anything. Um,
Mhm.
and that's what I found too, is because I've also suffered multiple burnouts. And in fact, my first one was like I was 20 years old, which is kind of ridiculous. But and I did find that yeah, we do use some of these healing modalities kind of in a place to keep us going, right? Instead of really surrendering and allowing and listening to our bodies. And so I would love to hear how
Mm.
you made the shift, or what was that? There may not be just one shift, but what were some of the
Mm.
shifts that you made in your business and your life as a projector?
First one, at some point along that road, I decided to take a corporate job because I thought, okay, if I'm not cut out for having my own business, either one way or another, either more physical or more, let's say, mental work, then I will take a job that's more, let's call it more steady, where I know that there's going to be an income and it's going to be in a certain way. That didn't help much because I just um, sort of burned out in that position instead. So it it dawned on me after having to take a leave of absence, and then later on, like fully quit and go on sick leave, that I'm not living, like, it didn't matter if it was in the first business, in the second business, or going back to take a full-time job somewhere. There's something that's still not aligned. And I think it's that realization that it comes from different angles and it's the same thing that keeps happening. There's something else. And I felt a little bit defeated in having to slow down, focus more on myself, because as you probably know as well, like a projector energy is more feminine, I would say, in terms of how it's expressed, an absorbent aura that takes other people's energy in, and you're better at guiding them, and that can be seem a little bit more feminine. At least that's how it felt to me at that time, and I didn't really want to accept that at first, I think, and now I wouldn't say I love it, but I like it, and I like the way that I am experiencing life now. It's different. I had to do a lot of deconditioning and acceptance around why did I choose this specific life? Why did I choose this specific maybe energy coming here? So that those three different ways of experiencing burnout, and then in combination with, at that time, my ex-partner and we were about to have a baby. So there were some other conditions that sort of came in, and I had to, if I wanted to be around when my kid was around, ending up in the hospital it wasn't scary because I knew I was going to live, but it's when other people telling you, okay, now enough is enough. It's like, okay, maybe I should start listen, instead of just trying to push and push and push. So, and it was definitely to prove myself in some way, and a lot of deconditioning around having to prove myself and enjoy my life more is something that I have had to work on for years, because it was not my mom and dad's or their generations, or their mom and dad's generations way of working in the world. This sort of hustle energy that we do have in the generators and manifesting generators, which is influencing all of us living here on Earth, and understanding your profile, or understanding your, like the chart, and understanding your own energy, and then start to live it. It's two different realizations, and it can take time to sort of catch up to the knowledge that you consciously understand. But if you haven't embodied it, then it's like having an understanding of an habit you would like to have, but have yet to understand and embody, if you know what I mean. So
Yes, many people that move into human design, we all take it in mentally first, right? We take in the knowledge, but it's until you've
absolutely.
lived it, until you've learned the wisdom of it, that it becomes, wisdom, right? That's embodiment, that's going through it.
Yeah.
And so for many of us, yeah, when we first learn human design, we mentally take it in, we get the idea of it, but we don't actually live it. And when you start living it and feeling how different it is, um, it took me quite a while to get to feeling like a projector, because I'm a Capricorn rising. I'm going to bring a little astrology. I'm a Cap rising. I have a defined will center. So I am designed to work. I love work. I love work, to be quite honest. I love work. And so for me, the burnout wasn't so much about the work, the actual work, but it was the reason why I was working. And
Mm-hmm.
you brought in value and worth. And that is one of the things that as projectors, we're here to redefine. I call it renegotiating our self-worth and our self-value, and seeing it in a different way. But it truly has to come through us first. We truly have to rediscover and revalue what our worth is. And my big thing is taking away our sense of self-worth connected to our net worth, right? Or what it is that we do, or how it is that we do it, right? And so I would love to hear a little bit about how you renegotiated your self-worth and value.
Yes, I think when you just were speaking now here, I got reminded that I think it's back to this femininity and masculinity, and having an idea about that I'm supposed to present myself in a certain way, be in a certain way as a man in this world, and as a projector, as a man in this world, like 10% of the population. Suddenly having to, or needing to do something in a completely different way that I wasn't sort of introduced to as a child or when I was growing up. And it was, I wouldn't say it was a lot of masculinity, but there was this understanding that a man is a certain way. And that has taken me quite some time to rewrite and to accept, and understanding that my strength just lies differently. And it's a different way that I am to present myself. There's a different way that I am um, to work hard. Like it's maybe 2 or 3 hours a day that I work hard. I have a defined will center as well. I do love to work, and I do especially like to work with clients, because this is where my genius comes through, and where it can really, let's say, like shine and feel that, that good recognition and attention that comes from actually serving. And knowing now that that's not something that I naturally can do for 8 or 9 hours a day, but instead am to charge like higher amounts and of money for, and then do it at a shorter period of time during a day. That there was a bit of conditioning again there, because that meant that I had to go from long hours and then shorten it down and make myself more valuable to other people, like to the marketplace, and understanding how to do that took quite a while. So again, as we spoke about before we started here, I have a 3-5 profile, and a lot of learning through, let's call it trial and error. At least there's a lot there's a lot of learning. And the 5 line there is really deconditioning who I thought I was, and if I could or couldn't do something, if I was allowed to do something, if I can show up like we sit here and we talk about something like this, basically showing myself without hiding away, and not trusting that I have purpose, I have potential that needs to be lived out. I have something that's important to share, and it all came through these trial and errors where I kept my head down for many years, and I tried a little bit and then I couldn't, and then I tried something else and that didn't work either. But it's small stepping stones each and every time that sort of became this big puzzle that came together. And now I'm like having a look at it. Maybe it's not all done yet, but I'm having a look at it. I can see the picture now. I'm like, okay, I know what to do now, and I know how to help other people start to see their own picture, like to see their own design, and where to help them to start, basically. So I'm
I love
really
that.
grateful for that.
It feels like there's an element of divine timing in play, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with the cycles of learning, the cycles of burnout, very line 3, right? The cycles of burnout that you experienced, you embodied, you were the wild man. I
Yeah.
call the line 3 the wild woman or the wild man, right? Paving their own paths, and face plants and failures are part of the process of learning, right? And then the 5th line I call the queen or the king, right? Because there is a projection on you, an expectation sometimes on you, until you
Mm.
fully own your own sense of self-worth and self-value, or what it is that you want to share. What I found fascinating was that you talk about the projector as deeply feminine. Excuse me. And what a dichotomy of you seeing it as a male, deeply feminine, whereas as a female, I see it as deeply masculine, because as a projector,
Interesting.
we see so deeply into someone else, right? My clients that I work with, they're like, You see me so deeply." Like, you've even manifestors say how as projectors sometimes we can really get into like deeply into them where most people can't, because
Mm.
we see so deeply into someone. We pull out the potential, the possibilities, the nuggets that they may not see as a projector. And yet there is also the femininity of, we take in energy, and we are like a cleaning system, right? That is part of our purpose here in life, is to clean the energy. And so, I work in mental health and addictions, for instance, at the hospital. And so deeply taking in that energy, but, not being a sponge, right? Being a screen and not a sponge. And knowing that I'm just here for, as a, energetic cleanup crew sometimes. And I noticed from 2020, around 2020 to 2023, around that time, I really felt like it was such a dank energy that us projectors felt like. I felt like, in many projectors that I've talked to, felt like there was a lot of work we were doing behind the scenes that we didn't even realize, or we were just so tired. Like, so many projectors were so tired in the last
Yeah.
few years. And yet we were trying to do all the things as well, and not honoring that, hey, us laying down and doing nothing, we're actually doing something. And I'm curious if you have felt a subtle shift now, almost like a call out, where it's like, okay, we just cleaned up a lot of energy. And as projectors, we're here to guide our few, right? Like, we're here to guide our people. And I'm curious, this is totally very splenic, but What do you feel like you are here to share with your people, that you're here to help your people with?
So basically, there's a few things that came up like now that you spoke here, but what I'm really here to help people with is to revolve against what they are currently doing if it does not align with them. It's to grow through that phase that they naturally enter into when they have seen, I am here and I want to go over here, and now we have this gap. And that is exactly what I'm helping people with. That's the that's the transformation. That's the bridging between those two things, and holding as much as possible unconditional love for these people while they're on their journey. Because I know personally how hard it is. Most of the journey, I have had some help along the way when I have reached out myself, but a lot of it I've gone my own. And it is much easier when you have somebody that is an accountability partner for you along that journey. Some people have the opportunity to do so. Some people have the opportunity to pay money for these transformations, and some people don't. And I have tried to help as much as possible in the last few years, not only myself on my own journey, but people along the way that naturally was attracted to the transformation that I was going through. So every time I had the opportunity, I forwarded any sort of deconditioning tool to the people that I could see were asking a question, or people I remembered from my DMs, or in Messenger and WhatsApp, like these different platforms, Instagram, and just forward whatever I was going through. And I could see if they had sort of stopped at where I was just at. I just forwarded things, and I just kept going like that. And that felt good to be able to do, because every time I discovered something new, I could see that it was exactly what they needed to get on their next step as well. So I am not done, like most of us are not done. But I do believe that I have landed in a place where I can see my past now as why it was the way that it was. I can't see the future, but I understand um, where I'm headed. I know what I'm supposed to do, and that feels comforting. That feels like something has settled. And when you mentioned this with the last few years, especially 2023 was tough. I do think as a projector as an entrepreneur, until you know what it is that you do and what you're good at, it will feel tough. But when you do, it's gonna and you start to settle into it. You sort of, it's like leaning back into like a nice chair in the cinema or something like that, and you start, getting comfortable. Not too comfortable, but you get comfortable in your seat, and you're like, okay, this is sort of my domain now. Like I know what I'm doing. Then it's gonna be much easier to do that Zoom that we do and point into other people's energies and help them, because what you're leaning up against, especially as a 3-5 profile, is your own trial and error, with all the errors in the back and all the scars and whatnot. And you're like, I know this, like I am willing and able to carry you through that next part that you need to go through. And these are the outcomes possibly for your specific type and your energy. And if people are willing to thwart those next steps, then I'm more than willing to assist on the journey, because as I mentioned, it's much more fun, and it's much more helpful and healing having an accountability partner as you go along, because it can take quite some work, quite some crying, quite some yelling, quite some hard decision making. But when you have somebody to talk with it along the way and discuss if the decisions are right and aligned, then it's so much easier to show up for yourself. So yeah.
I love that so much. we've never spoken before, and while you speak, I'm very visual. I get lots of visualizations, and I was seeing you as this warrior king, right? That's been there, that's done that, very much like Hecate, but in the masculine. I don't know if you know who Hecate is, but she is kind of like a rainbow bridge between, you know, life and death, or a next transition. And I was really feeling the wisdom of you as a holder, as a keeper of that transitional space. I was even seeing, I don't know if you're into Marvel or not, like these bridges, you know, these esoteric bridges that you take people across, whether it's in business or whether it's spirituality or just in your personal life, where you are and where you're going, right? And like this beautiful bridge that, as a projector, as a 3-5 projector, you are here to share, right? With your defined will center, you have this beautiful defined will center that you were sharing your resources with others. Oh, this happened to me. This is really valuable. This nugget of truth, and when somebody asks for it, I can share this. Right. That's the beautiful part of having your will center defined. And then as a fifth line, there's this practicality of it. Right. You can really ground it into a way that is understandable, that is relatable, which makes you so powerful, right? You've been there, you've done that, you know how to, you have the resources to share with others, and you can do it in a practical way that, as a right angle cross of explanation, you know how to share it in a way that's going to create more impact instead of less fluff and less noise. Like, where do you want to go? This is where, you know, this is um
Yeah.
you know, like that's just kind of the energy that I was feeling as you were speaking. And I love that you were sharing it from a place of, okay, you've been the wounded masculine, you know, you've been out there, excuse my language, out there rocking out with your cock out, excuse me, and then you've come into the you know, meeting yourself in that masculine, and you know, self-parenting yourself in a way of, you know, I have some feminine in me, and I'm here to experience all aspects of my life and who I am, that I am. And then you get to like kind of share both sides of it in the full embodiment of that, and share in such a beautiful way. And I love that so much. I love that women and men are, you know, kind of dancing on the edge of both, right? Like you said, you're into your feminine. I'm very deeply into my masculine. I often say I'm more butch than bitch in a lot of ways. But not, but also, you know, because my feminine is so natural, I don't even notice it, right? And so I love this conversation, and I love the way that you are supporting entrepreneurs. And is that who you work with then? You work with entrepreneurs?
Well, it's not too far back or too long ago that I sort of switched into that area, because I can see there is a lot more motivation, depending on people's situation, of course. But there's a lot of motivation if you want to create your own business. You're willing to invest in yourself, time and energy, and especially also money, if you are in the area of creating your own business. So if you have that drive, or at least you have that motivation, then there's oftentimes um, naturally need to grow. And people that are into spirituality, or the spiritual area, I would say, that human design is in, um, then there need to be some sort of energetic, how do you call it? People call it an energetic sort of change in some way. And it's so much easier, now that we don't have a barter system any longer, that we use money for that. So I used to work with people more that are private people that wanted to understand their soul's purpose and wanted to live in alignment. But naturally, if you want to charge higher prices, you can work with private people. But since I have a background as an entrepreneur myself, it's easy to see the pitfalls where people, they run into the same problems: stress, anxiety, worry, burnout, how to do things like practical things, how to set up technical things, how to make websites, or like whatever all these things are, like how to do funnels and how to attract people and into their business as clients. So it's easy to talk with people about this because I've been through all those struggles and I know how that is. And now you mentioned the word practical, and that's exactly what I bring into the game. That's practicality. I'm like, do you need this? No. Do you need that? No. What is it really that you need? And then we cut all these things off. So we only have exactly what the person need, and then the minimum amount of, for example, if it's an entrepreneur, technical know-how and technical setup, because you don't need, like depending on the size of your business, you don't need a hell of a lot of things to run an efficient business. And there's just a lot of offers out there, and it can be hard to figure out like what's for me, what's not for me. So, and that you can actually, to some degree at least, go in and see in your design what is actually for you and what's not for you. How are you to market yourself? How are you to brand yourself? And how do you naturally best possibly attract clients into your area, like from your niche? So yeah.
Okay, so now I'm getting like my body's like lighting up because this is like obviously what I work with in my business as well, and I love this topic because we are not meant to do business the same way we were meant to do it even 5 years ago. Like backstory is back in 1996, I went to school for business, and that's where I found out I was dyslexic. I was going to school to be an accountant, marketing accountant, and I found out I was dyslexic, and so I gave up on that dream of becoming an entrepreneur. Fast forward to 2020, I'm like, okay, this has been my dream my entire life. I want to be an entrepreneur, and so I hadn't opened up a laptop or computer from 1990 to 2020, and that was a huge learning curve. But since 2020, I've been deep into business and marketing and how to build a funnel and all the systems as a projector we learned to do. But I'm even
Mm,
finding that everything that I learned in 2020 is almost obsolete now, and that
yeah.
business is changing so fast. And as projectors, we're always on the edge of innovation, the edge of the next thing. And that's why working with a projector is so powerful, because we don't want to teach you what has worked in the past. We want to take the nuggets that's worked in the past, but really bring you into the future of what business is going to look like 2025 and beyond.
Definitely. And I would say, adding to that, authenticity. You can't go around it. Like it's even like brick and mortar like companies these days, they can't go around it either. Like it's like people can sort of sniff it out if something's not right. And I think you mentioned that in the start. We are, the world is changing, the energy is changing, something's happening, everyone's feeling it to some degree. Um, People that haven't um, don't have a big grasp on maybe let's call it spirituality, and their own energies, and in this case also human design, might be a little bit further away from having or feeling this, but everyone feels it to some degree. Something is happening, like, and um, that is going towards honesty, authenticity, um, knowing what you know and sharing exactly that, and not trying to use these sneaky tricks to get people on an email list, or like not mentioning like that there's going to be like a paid offer afterwards, or something like that. And like it will decrease the trust that people just gained in you, and then probably won't come back to, because it takes time to build trust, and it only takes maybe one or two tries to completely destroy it. So that's where we're going. That's what I also feel myself. I don't know if you feel that's where we're going, but you're sitting there nodding, so maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I had a vision while you were speaking, and it was like even in the 90s, early 2000s, we were, um looking to buy a franchise. Like it was safer for you to buy a franchise than it was for you to start out on your own. And we're
Mm,
finding now that the franchise no longer is working. You know, we want individuality, we want authenticity, we want the mom and pops, we want the soulpreneurs, the entrepreneurs, the individual,
mm,
rather than the label, rather than the chain, rather than the same old, same old. I know even the way that I eat, right? I don't eat at franchise restaurants anymore because it all comes from the same place. It's all the same flavor. It's boring. I would rather go to something authentic, something ethnic, something different for my
mm.
eating experience. And it's the same with business. It's the same with everything. We're really going to see the rise of the individual and the rise of the entrepreneur. And so I'm really, really excited that we're on the forefront of this and that we are going to be guiding and supporting and helping those that are also moving along that transition, but maybe a little blind and need that guidance that we're here to support each other with.
I truly hope that we pop up somehow by the algorithms or by manifestation through the world that we live in here, to those people exactly when they need it and when they are ready and open for it, and then that they dare to jump on the train and and go with something slightly new, something more energetically aligned instead of something that's um, let's call it mass produced, generator, manifesting generator, um, solutions. Like, because even those people, even though they are supposed to respond to with their sacral center, um, there's a lot of possibility for individualization. So um, yeah, I think that's what I want to say with that.
That's amazing. I want to thank you so much, Christian, for being on the Soul Present podcast today. If anybody wants to find you to work with you, where could they find you?
I mainly focus on Instagram as a platform for sharing content and showing up. So you're definitely welcome to find me there. It's called Coach Christian Kronberg or Coach Christian Kronberg, and that's where I also book calls from. So if people are interested in understanding more and maybe want to align the business with their specific design, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. And if you want to live in alignment with your specific design, you're also more than welcome to reach out to me, because I know it's painful if you sit out there, you have stress, you are anxious, or you feel even burned out, because I've been there and quite many times. So there's a way out, and there's a way to run your business. There's a way to run your life in a completely different way. So thank you so much, Tammy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, that's it, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Soul Prism podcast. And I'm really excited about the series that we are going to be bringing in 2025 and beyond as we move into the new paradigm of business and how it's going to look like as we connect with the conscious economy, or the quantum economy, as many people are calling it. All right, that's it. Have a wonderful day.